Hey guys, I'm in my bathroom. Sorry, it looks kind of crazy. We're in the middle of a renovation in our bathroom. Has anyone ever had a up and down and just needed to pick me up? I've definitely had a few of those. I've always just tried to stay optimistic about everything, tried to have a positive outlook. I've always looked at as a glass half full versus a glass half empty kind of thing. It definitely makes the world a better place whenever you just keep a smile on your face and you know that a better day is coming. You never know what's happening the next day, and you know you're gonna have better days coming. So I'm gonna go ahead and summarize 3 main points for you that I'm gonna go ahead and talk about later in the speech. So the first one, I hurt myself playing the game that I love. The second one is I moved away from my parents and my whole family when I was 20 years old. And the third one is I hurt myself driving and I figured out that I couldn't drive and I had a disability when I was 20 years old. So I'm just going to share some of the experiences that I had today that make me the person that I am today and why I'm so optimistic. So when I was 11 or 12 years old, I was playing softball and I hurt my rotator cuff. I completely tore it to the point where I was told I could either have surgery and only play or only have a 70% chance to get back to where I was, or I could have physical therapy and not be the same anymore. So I went ahead and did physical therapy on it. When I played basketball and softball, it still wasn't the same. I still played for a few more years, but I ended up just not playing anymore. It just didn't feel the same. After I stopped, went into high school. School kind of took over. Had some issues after that. So now I do help coach my 7-year-old's baseball team. So I am optimistic about that. He loves the game. I love the game. I'm just glad he loves that. So when I was 20 years old, I moved away to North Carolina when my son was 18 months old at the time. My husband was in the Marine Corps. We all moved away to Jacksonville. It probably was one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do in my life. It was a whole new state, whole new city, whole new everything. I left everything that I had known and moved there with them. I'm the biggest mommy's girl, biggest daddy's girl anyone will probably ever meet, and it was so scary for us to the point where I didn't know what to do. I was super optimistic that it was just a big new journey that we could all do together. It ended up being great, fine, dandy. We moved back home a few years later, and it was just a big journey that we all did together as a family. The last thing that kept me super optimistic was while I was in North Carolina, I did have an accident where I ran into a guardrail, which led me to have blackouts to where we couldn't figure out what they were for about 3 years. They thought they were panic attacks. I had MRIs, EKGs, you name it, I had them done. They weren't fun at all. 3 years later, they figured out that I had seizures, I had epilepsy. 6 months after that, almost a year after that, I found out that I could drive again. So that kept me optimistic. That made me super excited. I always held on to hope that I could do that again, that I had my life back. I finally was able to get a job. I finally had my life back. We finally had another baby. Everything is great, fine, and dandy. So I've finally learned that once you're grown up, it takes just a lot of hard work, being super optimistic about everything. I'm glad that I've got back into school, gotten back It's my whole routine again. It's just great to be back to have a normal life again. So I'm going to go ahead and summarize my main points again. So the first one is I got hurt. The second one is I moved away. And the third one is I wasn't able to drive and couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. Those were the big 3 points, but I still stayed optimistic no matter what. And I was able to overcome all of those obstacles. So no matter any of the struggles, you can still be optimistic in life. No, anybody can do it. If I can do it, anyone can. So what I tend to live by is if you think you can't, then you absolutely can. Just think again. So staying optimistic is difficult when you can. Staying optimistic is difficult when you make it. However, when you change your mindset, you'll definitely be ready for anything. So this class has been definitely challenging, but it has been fun. I hope you guys have a great rest of your career with EGCC.